Hi guys, I just want to give you a very quick tutorial on our book page journal flip. In very simple terms, I have got some pages from a book, and in this case they are 11.5 inches by 9.5 inches wide. They come from Rachel's Ashwell Shabby Chic Inspirations. That is the book that I'm actually cutting up and using. These are our pre-done little journal book flips, and this is what we're aiming to achieve today. So we've got our book page in front of us. I've also used a quilter's rule. I like it because it's a nice 6.5 inch by 6.5 inch square. I like things that are close to hand and on my table, and this always serves a purpose when it comes to my journaling. In my case, I have taken the quilter's rule and just put it in the right hand corner. So we have got the 11.5 inches top to bottom. The width is 9.5 inches across, just shy of 9.5 inches. As you can see, I am not concerned about the picture, but I do like the fact that I'm using images from a Shabby Chic book. Draw around it. And our next stage will be to remove this particular square. Cut it out neatly. You can use a pair of scissors, and you will, at a later date, I will share with you what I'm going to do with these squares. So don't discard them, but put them somewhere safe for the moment. What you will finish up with is now a large L shape piece of paper. So your book page has transpired into this step. What we're going to do is, looking at our L shape, I'm going to fold down and crease the top section. By taking out the 6.5 inch, it actually, when it's folded, will actually have an overhang. So we've actually got a section that flaps over. And I'm actually going to use this as part of our tuck spot on the very front of our little book page. This way we can actually enclose some tags at the very beginning. So once you have creased and folded your piece of paper, I've pre-cut a few of these already. As I said, this section here is going to be folded back on itself. So this is an example here where I've creased the top and I folded up the flap and put itself on its back, and now we can see how the pocket is going to appear. You can go ahead, if you like, using a glue stick, and if you want to, you can apply some glue at this early stage. You don't have to, you can leave this to the end, depending on how you want to stamp or cover this particular piece of paper will dictate if you want it glued right at this point. I'm thinking at this point I'm going to cover with some decorative paper some of the darker elements, so I'm going to leave that open for the moment in case I either want to tuck some paper underneath the flap, or if I want to do some stamping. So leave as is for the moment. It's all a trial and error. Once you've actually got your two folds into your piece of paper, you now want to consider that you're going to try and turn this remainder section into book pages. So you want to fold the paper behind itself, crease nice and firmly, and then you've got your first page materializing here. Once you've done that, you can see that you're probably going to fold it back and crease again on itself, like I have in this second example. So we have creased and folded, and then I've yet again creased and folded on itself. Now it doesn't matter, you can have your work which goes this way when it pulls out, or you can actually have it this way when it pulls out. So you can actually, at present moment, it's up to you. You can make those decisions which way you'd like your piece of work to unfold. Now, depending on your book page size, you may find that you've actually got a little flap of paper at the end. Now in my case I am actually going to cut this off because this is a small, I would say about 5mm in diameter, and I don't feel that we can actually turn it back on itself and make a particular tuck spot. So on this particular journal page I'm actually going to cut it off. Once we've actually got our little folded piece of paper ready to go as a journal, we can think about decorating it. In this case I'm going to use some nice pieces of decorative cardstock that I have in my collection, and this way I can just cover up some of the images and this will make it easier for me to stamp. So I have already looked at my piece of paper, measured up what I feel is going to be required in certain spots. Let's open this up so you can have an idea of where I'm going with this. I've also given myself little alphabet letters so I know where I'm going. I've taken and tried to incorporate that we've got some areas that are going to be left visible for you to journal on. So using the lavender and the lilac colours on this particular Shabby Chic page, I'm working with the colorations. So I'm going to use my glue stick, my pieces of decorative paper to cover some of the areas. Now I like the fact that we've got some nice white going on here, and it is all about just, you could use another book page that you've got in your collection. You don't have to use any decorative paper, but I just happen to have this. It's all about using my stash at present moment, and also thinking about using the stamps in my collection, and this is how it's come about, and also giving me a little area that I can journal on without it being too encompassing. Now obviously what I'm being very aware of is not getting my paper over the physical crease, otherwise it's going to be very difficult later on to fold my work. So there's one selection down. I've got another section I'm going to cover up the top here because I think that's a little too busy, and then that will leave me this area that I can journal on. I've gone into different ways of using either post-it notes to cover some of my work. I've also gone into using a product called gesso. It's very much simply a white acrylic paint which has a rough texture, which can be homemade if you like, using PVA white glue, white emulsion paint or a white acrylic paint and some talcum powder. Or you can actually physically purchase the product from a good art suppliers. Thus this gives you a way of covering up some of the darker areas of your pages. Now this particular 11.5 by 9.5 paper actually lends itself very nicely to folding up into a nice little journal flip. But you will have different varieties of book pages and magazines that you may wish to work with. In a moment I'll get you an example from Daphne's Diary, which is a different size book page, and this allows me to have an extra tuck spot at the physical back of the particular page flip. So here I am just working to decorate my little flip before we go ahead and think about doing any possible stamping. So once I've applied this one here, and I kind of like the fact that I've cut my paper, and you will look at your images a little bit shy, so we've got that magazine border going on, and this will give you a brief look at what we've achieved. So now we've got the option of making a little pocket here, and if I share with you this one here, I've just stamped on the decorative paper and glued the pocket straight down. On this one, I actually, before gluing the pocket down, I stamped on the decorative paper here, and I stamped on the decorative paper underneath before I physically glued. That way I could use more of the stamp. So in this case, we can have a quick look at getting the stamp out. So let's get my ink. My stamp. These stamps are from Inky Dinky Doo. So this is the stamp that I actually used on this one. An acrylic block. It's going to be a small one, but it will do the trick. And I simply pull back the flap and stamped, and you can see then that way I can actually glue down my particular piece of paper, and it looks as if I can have a various ways of stamping that floral on there prior to gluing it down. Okay, I think that gives you an idea of how a basic little book page flip is made, and I will share with you in my next tutorial how I used my Daphne's diary to make these particular little journal flips. And these guys, as I said, some of these have little extra flaps on the back which you can actually glue and make more pockets with, or you can actually physically cut it off. And these are because Daphne's diary is a different size, literally, to the original paper magazine book I was using before. Anyway guys, take care and many thanks for watching. Bye bye.